Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So let's continue our PTG discussions. Other discussions are recorded and being posted to the OpenStack Manila YouTube channel. So if you missed something, please check the Etherpad and the recordings. Yeah, so let's get started with the next topic for this PTG, which is sync snap mirror support and sync snap mirror enhancements. Sai, first yours. Would you like to do the screen sharing or would you like me to do it?
I'll do. Maybe that's okay.
Yep, just stopped it.
Thank you, Carlos. Hello, everyone. This is Sai from NetApp. So give me a minute. I'll just share the screen. Please let me know once it's visible, Carlos.
Yes, it is.
Okay, fine. So I'll just start with the problem statement, or maybe what is existing at the moment with an NetApp driver. So we have async snap mirror support at Manila share replication creation at the moment, and that too we are doing that as by default. Say somebody is creating a replica and we are going and assigning mirror all snapshots policy by default. And so there is no support such as like we can specify predefined policies from the on tap design and pass it somewhere, and it will be created with that particular policy. So as part of this, we would like to support some of the predefined policies of sync and async snap mirror. So that's a whole idea. I mean, to conclude, like I mean, on the problem statement, we only have a mirror all snapshots policy at the moment for async, and we would like to support one more policy as part of async, and we would also like to extend the support to the sync snap mirror policies. So that's for the problem statement. And yeah, we will do it for NFS and SIFs, maybe a stretch goal, because we would need a lot of testing. And if possible, we will also finish on SIFs, and we are looking at both Zapier and REST. So this may change accordingly, during the testing, what is available, what is not available, that we can document. So the approach that we would like to take is we would like to introduce a new parameter called replica policy as part of the share replica create command. So if the policy is not passed, we will consider the existing behavior until flamingo that is there, which is a mirror all snapshots. So if you see, sorry for jumping into the line. So 19, if you see, this is how we would like to do it. During the share replica create, we would like to introduce a new replication policy, and here we can pass the policy name, and we will handle it through the driver. We are going to support only these policies through the driver. We will handle it uh, if any other policy than these four are passed, we will throw error saying that these four are only supported. So it's a generic way to add a replication policy through the replica create. So we wanted to do it like this. We also have a proposal to how we want to do only for NetApp driver specific stuff that we will go through. So any questions still, problem statement or the approach we are taking? Okay. So fine. So taking silence as no for the moment. And if you see the data model impact, we would like to add a the same the policy name as part of the share instance table, like we have replica state and others for the replica at the moment. And it will impact a REST API, in adding a policy here, and the response will be the same. We will also add it to the get to show it for the replica. I have noted down some examples, real time that we did on tap. So one of the examples is with respect to async policies, because whenever we have async policies, there is something called NetApp a snap mirror. I mean schedule stuff, because we have to deal with the schedule now when we are adding one more policy. So going through the workflow, say that we have created say that we have two backends, one is AZ1 and AZ2, and we have created a share on site A that's called AZ1, which is going to be active. And now we are creating a replica created on site B that will be in sync. Okay. So this is how it will be created. And OpenStack share replica create. Okay, this is fine. We named it as just share replica B. So the policy that we were passing is asynchronous. Assume that we have passed the policy here as asynchronous, and the schedule will be taken from B. This is actually existing at the moment. So I will show that. So this is the NetApp SnapMirror schedule config option that is existing at the moment, and this is always referred from the destination. So the same is being referred here in the line number 72. So the schedule will be taken here, but when we are adding the support for async enhancements here, we would like to mention some more points on the schedule part. But replication policy will be taken from here. Coming to the schedule, the priority will be taken like this in the future. So if there is something called in the NetApp driver, the policy itself can have a schedule. So if something like that is there, we will consider that schedule as a first. I think that is coming in the second. So first we will consider the schedule that is mentioned in the backend, that is NetApp SnapError schedule, and second priority will be the policy schedule if it has any schedule through NetApp driver that we will be considering. And if that there is nothing passed in the stanza, and also if the policy does not have any schedule by itself, we will consider the default schedule as hourly, like we have at the moment. So this is how the schedule will be dealt for the next changes. So I just noted down, this is for just for the information. So no, what is the default schedule of asynchronous and mirror all snapshots as per the ONTAP design? So the default schedule for asynchronous is hourly, and mirror all snapshots does not have anything like that. So maybe the default will fall under hourly, or if somebody is passing on the stanza, we will pick that up from the schedule. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that when we are doing the failover, like say promote B, what policy will be picked and what schedule will be picked. Like I just explained, schedule will be taken according to the points here, and the policy will be taken from the share replica that we had B, which we are storing on the share instance table that we have shown. So this is the first approach or first proposal that we had. Any queries on this, or any confusion or any doubts?
Yes. So all three proposals that you have listed out there is the same kind, right? You're trying to find a different place to push the replication policy.
uh, Two proposals,
Yeah, I see proposal one, proposal alternative proposal,
right?
and
Right.
so I see that all three of them are talking about how the replication policy can be set.
Yeah,
Whether
we
it's
wanted,
coming through.
we combined these two as proposal two. So I
Oh,
mean,
I
yeah.
see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. This was for, I mean, we will go through this. I mean, this was extra spec support was to, override the backend stanza stuff. That was earlier we designed. So after internal discussions, and we also had a discussion with Kiran, then he told it would be nice, to have it like this. We already went through one call, and he has actually he suggested, why don't you guys do like this? It will be more, user friendly, instead of coming to the stuff of backend stanza and then extra spec. Yeah, yeah,
I,
but
I,
but
I guess I'm a
the
little confused about. Okay, let's talk through what you've shown us so far, Sai. You
yeah.
said the OpenStack share replica create command,
Mhm.
let's say,
Right,
is what how a user would end up interacting with this, and they would specify a
right,
policy.
right.
So my first question to you is, can replication policies be different per replica on a share? Like, can I have two replicas, each with
Yes,
its
yes.
own policy?
Right, right. You can have it.
Okay, I see. So you do definitely want this to be a per replica feature rather than a a feature across the share itself. So it can't
Right,
be a share type extra spec, for instance. It can't be a share metadata thing. It's got to
right.
be supplied along with each replica that's getting created. So at that point, would you have a default policy?
If you are not passing any policy here,
Yeah.
Yeah, the default will be mirror all snapshots async. This one,
Okay. So that's
yeah,
what is the current state, right? Is what
in the
I
current
was
state,
understanding.
right,
Okay.
Gautam, right.
All right. I'm gonna ask then if you can consider doing this via the metadata approach that we've taken, partly because it doesn't look like it's generic enough for for all of the replication implementations to support, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is a knob that will allow you to get something done on the NetApp backend, um, and you might have other knobs like this. Like for example, I heard you say that you needed a different one for schedule in case the schedule is not already present in the policy, right?
Sorry, the schedule one.
You said this, the policy could have a schedule, but if the policy doesn't have a schedule, then you could specify that via input or via configuration, right?
There is no
Uh,
input. I mean, where the configuration option that is existing already, Gautam. Yeah. So
oh, I
this
see.
option is
Okay,
already
so
there.
you don't
This
need that
option,
as an input from the
no,
end
no,
user.
you don't need. This option is already there, where you can actually put it on the destination backend.
Okay,
Right. And at the moment,
Idea
this,
Kiran, I
go
think we're
ahead.
picking
idea
up
is
some
to
uh, background noise from you.
yeah. Let me add a point here.
Sure.
Idea is to maintain the backward compatibility of the schedule what we had while creating the replica instance. So we don't want to alter the behavior. The only thing that we are trying to bring it in, we want to honor the same thing, given that it is being mentioned by the customer, even with this new feature. That is the only catch here, Gautam.
Yeah, makes sense. So, have you considered trying to use this? I mean, to try to design this via the metadata approach? Not share metadata. Share replicas don't have metadata yet, but you would first implement that and then use the metadata as a vehicle to supply this.
Mm, I don't think we have exercised it.
Yeah.
Maybe a point to consider. Yeah.
It is a pretty, easy thing to extend. A few releases ago, we had this composable metadata implementation where everything can be inherited from common code. Like there is a metadata controller, there's a metadata, data model, and so on. So you can just start adding new, resources up onto it. And replicas are just one other resource, right? They're just shared instances.
See, so it is possible to do that, uh, but I assume or believe that metadata related operations, something we should be, the end user should be aware of what is happening by that metadata. What I mean is that if the replica policy metadata is being set on the share replica, uh, and if someone changes that metadata, the replica is not going to change. The replica is already created. So uh, it's more of like non-mutable metadata.
Yeah, and we have options for that, right? It's basically something that you can set once and not really allow resetting or deleting.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that is possible. But I am just thinking that this will be a little bit complicated. Not much, but little bit. Instead of that, if the replica policy or the replica configuration is something which is applicable for most of the drivers, we can simply have as a new field into the DB object instead of going through the metadata way.
My concern is that this will not be the end of it. We could be adding more resources like this, more toggles like this. But sure, let's assume that we could do this. How do we make this generic? Like I don't think we should expose something directly from NetApp, language. up to the API like this. Like I don't exactly understand what mirror all snapshots mean, right? As what asynchronous means as a end user, because what I do understand is that replication can have different types. Um, and there are three types broadly: readable, writable, and DR. And I have the assumption that everything that is readable or DR is asynchronous by nature, and writable would be synchronous. That's what you know the current implementation looks like. Um,
Yeah, that's correct. But
No,
those are the replica type. Here we are providing the replica policy or replica configuration is what you can say. So I assume that the NetApp will also update the documentation uh, with what kind of replica policies are supported.
Right.
I mean,
this is still a DR, sorry, DP volume only, Gautam.
mhm.
It's a not a writable, it's a readable, ideally, even with the sync. What you mentioned of writable is for active, which we are not yet supporting it,
I
right?
see. Okay. So you have a total of four policies by the looks of this, right? So sync,
Yep.
sync, mirror all, snapshots, asynchronous. I'm trying to find a way to make this generic,
Right.
in order to get this understood by Manila users that are not all NetApp users.
yeah,
Mhm.
That we can work on. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be one feedback, and I don't think we need to solve that in this call,
Right.
but that's worth
Sure.
exploring.
Yeah, I would also be in favor of something in the approaches of the metadata, for example. But I understand the concern that you guys have with, like if something gets updated in the metadata, then it won't be forwarded to the backend. This is something that was addressed in the share network metadata updates and sending it to the backend drivers. This was a change that Kiran worked on this year. um, Maybe like if we do something generic enough and then specify what kind of metadata should be updated in the driver. We already have a configuration option for the subnet stuff, but maybe we
yeah,
could extend something like that. But yeah, I think that that change was an example of how to handle the changes to metadata and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
yeah. So the only difference that we see here with the metadata is that metadata is something we pass to the backend to toggle something on off. On the other hand, policy is something considered beforehand, like before creation of the replica. Once the replica is created, this field doesn't have any value. I mean, you cannot modify it, and even the modifications are not applicable. So, you know, basically, if the end user is creating a replica with particular replica policy, the metadata has to be provided as a part of replica create itself, and not as a part of metadata set or metadata update, something like this.
Yeah, we have mechanisms to prevent that. Like they, for example, setting which metadata cannot be updated. We have a config option for that, so that would make the
No, no,
metadata
no.
something.
I'm not saying about the feasibility. What I'm saying is that uh, this is something, value, if you want to consider for the metadata, the behavior is different. The other fields that we set into the metadata, we pass those to the backend every time when the metadata is updated, and accordingly we make a decision. For example, we toggle something, some features on, off, etc. But this metadata, if you keep this as a metadata, there is no meaning of passing to the backend every metadata update operation. This has to be go in the very first attempt only, because this field will determine what kind of replica will be created. Once it is created, you cannot change the replica policy.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, this is the reason when we started with the alternate proposal where we don't have the mechanism to pass this extra spec for the replica creation. So at that time, we thought of having an extra spec added to the share creation or backend stanza, and we'll use that for the creation of the replica. But after discussing with Kiran suggestion looks very optimal, approach and easy to consume by customer. Um, but I understand concerns from Gautam that this is one thing that we just started. There may many will come, so we need to find a way how we pass the metadata to this that will put us in the extensibility in future in a smoother way. Yep, we will take a look at this and we'll come back what approach and depending on the feasibility and all. Anything you want to update, Sai, on that front?
So, what is a strong suggestion that we have, Gautam? I mean, we will work back on making this generic and come back, and also we will look into metadata. So, we just wanted some, concrete thing, but I know we might not, finalize now. But what is your opinion, Carlos, Gautam? And I heard from Kiran. Anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think this is worth digging into. I don't think I have a thing right off the top of my head. Um, Thanks for considering it. I do probably just want to think about the UX, right? So if I'm an end user, my administrator that uses NetApp is very familiar with NetApp, knows how to configure it, etc. Understands all of this stuff. An end user that is actually setting up replication doesn't. So how is the admin going to communicate that to the end user? Typically, they don't write a lot of things. These are people that are probably clicking things on a UI or executing the CLI commands. Um, yeah, try to make it simple, understandable for them.
Right,
And
right.
in
So,
the same
like
vein,
we,
I think with the same thing that you said about policy, I have the same concern about schedule as well, because I think we've had concerns from end users in the past that asked us the same question, saying, I have there are some things in the cloud context that still make sense, right? What is my recovery point objective? When what kind of disaster can I really take? um,
mm,
I kind of think that's where the schedule also comes in. So I think we've conflated that a little bit with the way we represent the replica health today. We have
right,
this idea of that there is a replica status, and it will tell you if it's in sync or if it's
right.
out of sync, it's active, etc. But in sync does not mean that the replication. I mean, if the disaster happens, you could you could be perfectly all right. That's not what it actually means, right? There is a schedule that actually determines what in sync means, and that's not visible to the end user either. So if you're
Mm,
thinking through these aspects of UX, you might actually come up with something that's generic that will help you expose both the policy, the schedule, things like that to an end
right.
user.
Right. So, but at the moment, the schedule thing is made up specific, right? I mean, we
No,
don't
I think that's everybody. I don't think
expect
anything is. I mean, unless it's
this
a
one. I mean,
synchronous mirror.
confident.
Um,
Yeah,
there's always going to be a schedule.
yeah,
Um,
that is there. I mean, yeah, but this option was made up specific anyway. So,
yeah, correct.
yeah,
That
yeah,
option to set the schedule with this
right,
mirroring
right.
that was added in the NetApp driver.
Okay. So what we were thinking is like we had encryption keyref as generic, right? Maybe we'll come up with something on the replica policy with some generic info that admins and all other drivers can also understand.
Sure.
And also we will exercise the one metadata that you told, and we will discuss internally with the team. So we will come back with the both approaches, and
Sure.
you also take a look on this approach, and most of us, I don't think, I mean, this is something complex and it's not so user friendly is what we thought. So that's why we had to put as alternative approach. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we will, so the finalizing on one thing is we will come up with the replica policy of the generic thing, and also other thing is metadata exercise. Fine. So these two will come up with, and maybe we can discuss that. Is that okay?
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Then thanks a lot. I think
I would
we
say
are.
please feel free to bring it up in any upstream meeting, or if you'd like to schedule some time, like a collaborative session on this approach in any of
Sure.
the upstream meetings or at any time, please reach us out, and then we can have something arranged with the community so that we can move forward with this. And thanks for bringing this
Definitely.
up. It's a really nice feature. And yeah, I know we'll end up, like with this in a very user-friendly way. So thanks for working on
Yeah,
this and
definitely.
for taking the feedback.
Thank you so much, Gautam, Carlos, Kiran, everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, all right.
I'm sure.
So, any other questions regarding this topic? Right. Taking silence as though. Thanks again, Sai and NetApp folks. I believe we can go to the next topic, which is sorry, let me get back to my screen sharing. The next topic is the graduation of the share migration and backup APIs. So yeah, I can introduce this, and then we can talk about it, because there are a couple of notes that I see Zach and like some contributors added here. But pretty much we are on this topic. We are talking about the graduation of two features that have been around in Manila for a while. And what do I mean about graduation? Well, graduation is for those who don't haven't had this experience with Manila yet. So sometimes when we are planning to introduce a couple of features in Manila, and we are not really sure, like those are big features, and we are not really sure about the stability of the features. We are not really sure if there are any bugs introduced with the features. We introduced the features in the API, and we have this annotation of an experimental feature. So whenever you send a request to Manila, the API expects you to send the request with an experimental header, and then that header will also like be something like a reminder for you that, oh, this API is not completely well tested or not really stable. But we have two different APIs in Manila right now that statement is basically not true anymore, because we introduced two different features, like the share migration and the backup APIs. Those two features, at some point, they were not so stable, especially like the share migration one. Share migration was introduced in different phases in Manila, so it took a couple of releases to get it done. The share migration happens in a two-phase approach. First, you start the migration, and then there is like the phase over, when you need to trigger the completion of the migration when it reached like the 100% copy of the data from one shard to another. So it was a long feature, and it took a while to complete the migration. So throughout some cycles, migration was considered experimental, just because we were testing the feature on CI. We were allowing customers and deployers to have, and operators to have, enough time for testing this feature and report any bugs, if any. Um, Share backups is more recent, yes, but it's another feature that was introduced recently, and it also involves the Manila data service, meaning that we will need a lot of we will need a lot of work on removing that the experimental status from these APIs. So yeah, now that I've introduced this, I believe we can get to the topics and what's left for us. So what's left for us is actually graduating these APIs. I have some example changes. I've worked on the graduation of a couple of other features in Manila. Let me see if I have the correct. Yeah, I think I do. So this is an example of how to do like the graduation of a feature. Um, and yeah, with that, I would say for share backups and the share migration, we have a couple of open topics, and I think um, Zach spent some time on digging into exactly what does this uh, mean and what are the current bugs. So Zach, would you like to share some thoughts on the graduation of backups?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So maybe just to introduce myself very quickly, I'm Zach, Zachary Goggin. I work at CERN, just on our Ceph clusters, but also because of this on Manila. And yes, I guess we also have maybe Varsha and Ulrich. I don't know if they're in the. I see Ulrich is here. So yeah, so Ulrich is part of the cloud team at CERN, working on the various components that we have. And yeah, so I've been working on share backup for quite some time now. It's in a pretty good state. What I'll actually mention as well, Carlos and Gotham, we're actually going to be doing user testing relatively shortly. So myself and Ulrich have deployed share backup with the CBAC driver that we've been working on like a pre-prod cluster. We're going to be making it available. So we'll hopefully have some actual user feedback very, very shortly if it's something that interests you guys. But yeah. Otherwise, just for sort of the notes that I've written here, for the bugs, yeah, so there's a lot of very minute, I would say minute things that need to be finished, let's say, to get share backup over the line. Forced deletion, so this is something that came from Maria, I guess. So it's basically whenever you delete, for example, if you delete a share in Miller, you have the ability to pass this force flag that will, regardless of the state of a backup, like if it's an error or something like this, you can force a deletion to go through. This is basically the same idea for a share backup. We want to be able to force the deletion of a given backup, even if it has an error state. And you can see the bug here if you want to read it yourself. I have some sort of general thoughts that I basically got from looking at how it's implemented already for the share API. The first is that you basically, for Manila shares, you have this separate API call, you have a normal deletion call for a share, and you also have a separate force delete call. I wanted to understand if this was something that, if this is like something that we inherited, or is this like the model that we prefer to do in Manila? I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I believe it's I'm opening the change and looking at the
Yeah, sure.
right now.
Sure.
Yeah, but I believe at some point we had some inheritance or ROA that we did, like the deletion with the shares, and I think a lot of other
Admin
resources of that.
actions, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and so you should be able to just use that and get a forced deletion, you know, for free kind of thing.
Sure.
But yes, so deletes won't support body, right? That's not part of the
Yeah, of course.
policy.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so which is why I think what we do with forced deletions is that post request that you were
Exactly. Okay.
mentioning, and that's it's the same thing with resetting state and so on. So there are a couple of admin action controllers. Um, admin action methods in a controller that you inherit. And I think that's what Carlos is showing you. Yeah, admin actions mix in. So when you add that to any resource, you get those two things. But you might have to, parameterize certain things. Maybe you have different states, so you might have to add those states to that state machine that it can check against,
Okay.
so that you won't be able to reset it to a state that doesn't exist, and
Okay.
so on.
Okay. Understood.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for the questions there, for the answers there, rather. Share backup quota. So clearly, we can't give users an unlimited amount of backups or shares. As I understood, the quota itself is implemented for share backup. It's just that we don't really have a handle, at least in the CLI via the OSC, to basically modify this. I haven't had a great amount of time to look at this just yet, but I anticipate it's basically going to be relatively similar to what we do for the share quota. Another thought that I had was, as I understood, we don't have anything in Manila UI basically for share backups right now, right? We don't expose this via Horizon. Is this something that's desirable? If we're talking about basically the usability of quota and share backups, does it maybe make sense to implement it in Manila UI as well, alongside in the CLI, of course?
Yeah, so Manila UI, it's always been our wish list, right? To kind of
Sure,
keep the parity with the API, and
sure.
backup sounds like it's one of those things that would be perfect because the UI, at least the features that we do end up prioritizing, if we do have some time and resources, is
Mm,
things that end users can do, not
yeah.
administrators because they're probably not using the UI. It's end user actions like this, like creating a backup.
Okay.
So that would be perfect in this thing, and we are expecting an outreachy intern. I don't know if it'll happen, um, but it was one of the things that we had added to the outreachy intern as well,
Mm,
to the outreach internship as well. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we've had this particular kind of internship that happens with OpenStack in general, and Manila in specific. We've had several that were sponsored by sponsors that pull in money to find us an intern. And this
sure.
in this round of outreachy, we actually want to get some work done in Manila UI. Um,
Okay, I see.
so we could work through that as well. That's an option. But otherwise, if you're if there are some resources that you can dedicate for this, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, okay. If so, now I understand it's mainly end user facing. So I guess for share quota, maybe it's not so
Right.
important, but at least
Correct.
exposing the creation, deletion, etc. of share backups could be nice. Okay,
Absolutely.
I'll keep that in mind then. For the data manager driver abstraction, so again, just to explain this one, the way the data manager basically, for doing share backups in Manila, we have a base class called I think it's driver.py, and this is like it's a base class that you can use to build backup drivers for the share backup API. The data manager, which now calls this can use this class, also implements basically its own kind of internal backup driver methods. And what this is talking about is basically pulling those out of the data manager and making it a bit more generic. Because at the moment we have to use these feature flags within the backup driver to basically turn features on and off within the data manager, which is a little bit nasty. I had some time to look at this last cycle. I didn't manage to address it. I struggled with it quite a lot, to be honest. There's a very tight integration between basically the data manager and its actual internal methods. Like the dependencies that I found were basically such that you would end up pulling almost everything out of the data manager just to get it into kind of an abstract class that could be used also by the backup driver. Yeah, I don't know if you have any further thoughts on this, maybe Gotham, but for me it seemed very tricky. Is my impression.
I see.
Um,
Did you have a patch for this at any point? I thought we
but,
had a discussion through the
no, I
patch.
don't think the patch
Okay,
for this never made its way upstream. I can
I
see
see.
if I still have it and
Okay.
share it. You can see where I sort of left off.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense because I don't know what kind of changes we would have to make and whether those would be disruptive or
yeah,
would be backward incompatible kind of thing.
yeah.
That
I don't know that it would be. The big problem that I had, it was just that there are other internal methods within the data
mhm,
manager that the share backup methods are dependent on, basically, and
I
it's
see.
really tricky to tear out. It's simple to tear out the share backup methods from the data manager, but it's tricky to then get those dependents. Like the dependencies are used for more than just the share backup calls in the data manager. So it becomes hard to basically pull those out as well.
I see.
But I can try find this patch that I was working on and make it available so that you have something to actually look at if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that'll be helpful, and then we can work through it in case, and if we can't, I don't know if we can improve this in any other way, but those booleans, and so we can try to find a solution with that.
Sure.
Thanks. But yeah, having that code might show me what you're talking about.
Sure. Yeah. No, of course I understand. Tempest testing for targeted restores. So last cycle in Flamingo, I basically implemented this feature called targeted restores. It allows you to perform a share backup restore such that when you do the restore, you're able to restore the content to a share that isn't the source of the backup that you're using. So that means that you can basically restore to other share backends. You can restore to different shares if the one that you originally created the backup from is unavailable. So it's very nice for this kind of thing. The Tempest testing was blocked for a long time just by a couple of bugs. So it's the one that you actually see below. I'm going to be looking at this hopefully tomorrow. I have a bit of time tomorrow, so I'm going to try and look back into it. I at one point I did a recheck of the MR just to see if it was any healthier. But I'm going to sort of deep dive into this a bit tomorrow so that we have something for the dedicated block that we have on Friday. Otherwise, targeted restore progress, NFS driver support. This was a bug that I introduced. It was a very simple bug that I introduced into the data manager just because of some indentation. It basically meant that the progress getting one of the things that I added to the share backup API was to the backup driver was the ability to get the progress of a share backup and a share backup and a share backup restore. But it didn't quite work as intended just because there was some dead code that couldn't be reached. So the backup drivers, a third-party backup driver could never actually report its own progress. So it's fixed in master. There's also a backport for Flamingo ready. It just needs to be reviewed. I don't think there's much to be mentioned there. It's effectively fixed. It just needs the backport to make its way into the code base. For missing spec items, create from share. So one of the things that the original share backup spec and also my targeted restore spec kind of talked about was the ability to basically so when you're using share backups, you basically have to if you want to restore to a given share, you have to create it first, and then you have to perform a restore operation that targets that share. So it's kind of a two-step process. And one of the things, kind of a usability thing that we talked about was basically being able to create a share using a backup. So you would be able to basically pass a backup ID while you're creating the share. And this also kind of got passed over. I've added so you have the spec there if you want to read about how we thought it might be implemented. But it got passed by last cycle just due to the scope of the work needed. It turned out that it was a little bit more than we thought. It wasn't quite as easy. Basically, the problem that we had was that so when you're doing a share backup, the flow that you take through Manila is it goes from the OSC to the WSGI to the share backup API, and then to the internal share API, which is fine. However, when you're doing a share command, so OpenStack share create, the routing is slightly different. It goes from the OSC again to the WSGI, and then it goes to the public share API, and then to the internal share API. And this routing basically means that it's a little bit trickier to access some of the methods that you need. It's trickier to divert a such a call such that you can pass it into the data manager. You can see I've left I don't know if it's, yeah, it's there. There's this comment that I've left that basically outlines the kind of the problem. And I sort of commented at the time that we could bodge it in so that you would be able to, there's this create instance method within the internal share API that is basically used for creating a share. And at the time I was discussing basically bodging it in so that you would be able to directly call the data manager's share backup method. But I didn't think this was the right path. I think it would be better to actually expose the data RPC API properly, and make it something that's a bit more usable for all of the functions within the share manager if needed. But clearly this was a lot more work than we expected, so it didn't make its way in. So I basically just said at the end here, thoughts for exposing the data RPC API. Does anybody have any thoughts about what the best way is to expose this, I guess?
Not entirely familiar with how we are doing it right now
Okay,
to have
yeah,
an opinion right now, but I can take a look. But I do see like the UX of this right now is that we would create a share and then we would do the restore onto that share. So there's
Yes,
some
of course.
parts of user having to figure out some things that we could avoid with this thing that just says, "Hey, restore my share, my backup into a new share." I'm not going to create it. You can create it for me.
Yeah,
That's what's attractive about the proposal you made.
of
Um,
course. Yeah,
so yeah, I think so.
we
I
can
do see the data
maybe.
RPC API being used in the share manager, but you're
It's
saying
used
that
in one place, yeah. It's not, but it's. I think I can't remember the exact function, but it's used in. It's imported and then used in one place.
yeah,
And I think it would be. I could do something similar basically for this create instance API.
mhm.
Sorry, create instance call. But I'm not sure that it makes sense to do that. I think it would be nicer to have something a bit more with a bit more scaffolding, I guess, so that we can, if we have to come in and change something later down the line, it's a lot easier.
Sort of like the interface we have between the scheduler and the share manager, I would think, right
I
now,
guess
which is we
I haven't looked
establish.
at this.
Yeah, when you look at it, you'll see that we've established like a RPC version and so on. So
Sure.
we don't really just import the RPC layer. We basically assume that it's going to have, um, it's going to always be versioned, and we're going to talk to it at a particular version and so on. So all
Mm,
that's the kind of scaffolding I think you're talking about.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Just something a
so
bit more controlled, basically.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know whether it's overkill for this feature because I think this is quite extensible after. So I don't know if it's just backup APIs that might need to talk to the data manager. Right now, we
Mm,
have two things that rely on the data manager, which is share migration and backup. So it's possible to actually
sure.
think of other things that will end up using this sort of an interaction in the future. So
Mm,
we could call back and forth between the data manager and the share manager, the share manager and the data manager. Um, yeah. So if it's cleaner to implement it that way, that would probably be a nice improvement.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think I've covered everything that's in this topic. But are there any questions for me or general points that people want to add? Anything of the like?
One point is that I
Sure.
don't think any of these enhancements would prevent the APIs from being non-experimental. Like I don't see anything that's going on here that would change the existing APIs as such.
No. I
And
think this is all additions, right?
yeah,
Pretty much.
exactly. And a lot of internal refactoring that make things better. But end users are not going to see a difference as such with
No.
the schemas of something, perhaps. So, I mean, the question extends to the migration ones, which we didn't talk about, but Carlos mentioned at the beginning too.
Yeah.
And that's because I think migration has been around for so long now. I think since I don't even remember now. I think Mitaka cycle or something that we've not changed much in the migration code. So I think we need some um, you know resources to try to get that to graduate. Um, and I mean, thanks for sharing the example of the share application graduation, Carlos. So if anyone has some cycles to help us do this with migration and then with backup, that would be most welcome. Um, so that we can actually version the APIs as they improve rather than just keep them experimental.
I guess one last question I have, Gotham. Do you have any information? You mentioned previously that for these internships that you basically people contribute funding centrally, I guess, or does this goes to Red Hat? The only reason I ask is because we have a program at CERN called OpenShift. Sorry, not OpenShift. What's the name of it? It's Open Science. I forget the name, but we have a very similar thing that we use for basically collaboration with external entities, and sometimes
Yes.
they do funding. Um, so clearly I can't make promises on the behalf of the people above me, but maybe something that I could look into if it's useful.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think different people coordinate these internships with the OpenStack community.
Hmm.
The outreachy one specifically, I can share some contacts with you or loop
Sure.
you into an email with these folks. The idea is, I mean, with that, I think we end up raising. So I think Outreachy does 3 internship rounds. It's a lot similar to Google Summer of Code, and I think that's something where in the past the OpenStack community, Red Hat, and CERN worked together with a GSOC intern to write the whole Manila CSI integration, which I think I mean it was um, Robert that ended up working with CERN for a while as well, which was pretty cool to see. So it was a nice engagement. So I'd love to have an engagement like that again. So I can share those contact details with you.
That'd be great. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for the amount of details on this, Zach. Would you guys like to add something else to this topic? And yeah, as Gautam said, it would be nice if we had, like engineers with a cycle to pick up the graduation of the share backups and the share migration. That those features have been there for a while, and it would be nice to, at this point, the graduation of these features is it became tech debt. So that's something that we need to tackle. And the sooner we do this, the better, I would say. So yeah, I will. We can check about this throughout the cycle again, and I worked on the graduation for other things before, so I can help you, help guiding you through, like making this graduation happen. So yeah, I think. Any questions, comments, something else you'd like to add to this topic? Right. Thank you. Um, taking silence as no. We are a bit behind the schedule. That's pretty much on me for like I've messed. I didn't plan too well some time in the schedule. So we are 5 minutes a couple of minutes behind. Is it okay with everyone if we skip the break that we had scheduled for now and just jump to the next topic, which would be the share encryption follow-up? Awesome. I see some thumbs up going around. So I can get started with that topic. So Anup, I see you raise your hand.
Sorry, I was trying to give a thumbs up, but
Oh,
by mistake, I
no,
guess
no,
that.
you're good.
We are good.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So yeah, let's switch to share encryption follow-up then. We scheduled some time to talk about the next steps for share encryption, and this share encryption follow up is pretty much like targeting this. So in the previous cycle, we've addressed share encryption was added thanks to a lot of collaboration in the community and all the hard work from NetApp engineers, Sai, uh, everyone involved in the reviews as well. Also Kiran with the card change. Great job. So it was nice to have that being added. And we during the implementation of the feature, we talked about what would be the next steps, and also we spotted some issues in the implementation, as for example. Unmanaging encrypted share servers and migrating encrypted share servers, encryption with share replication, and also the issues with rotating application credentials. Earlier in today in the All Things FFS talk, we also talked about like extending this encryption workflow to shares, because it's also it's going to be a possibility for SFFS shares to have share encryption. So and also like the changes for Castellan in the Gazpacho cycle. So it's a bunch to tackle and a couple of these known issues. But yeah, I think we can go through them one by one, check on the plans for implementing this, and yeah, start the discussions from there. Did I miss something, Gotham or NetApp folks, if that you would like to add to this?
Nope.
Right. I think I see Kiran unmuted. Kiran,
Ricky is added here.
sorry,
Ricky.
So the first thing, follow up on custom. As
Yes.
far as I remember, the changes with respect to optimization and reusing the Castellan has been already done. I think I had reviewed those PRs. Do you have in mind if there is anything left? Because the changes where we do the Manila interaction with Barbican through the Castellan API are in a single file, and I see a lot of commits where things are updated in that file for the optimization. I mean, I don't have anything in mind as in follow-up changes needed in that file. But if you have, then please mention.
Hey, specifically about this Castellan stuff, right? Is that the question?
Yeah, right.
I think yes. I think at the end of the last cycle, when we ended up merging many of these code changes, there is one fix to Castellan that went in, and that didn't make it to the upper constraints. So that's why we were okay with the uh, with the code as is. But I think there was a to do that Takashi left in code for us to address. Just give me a sec. I think let me find the patch first that merged, and then we'll know exactly how it'll break as in this cycle. Yeah, this one I think. Oh, I think he's still fixing some things up. But let me see. Missing section options. This could be it. I'm just going to throw in some code. So that's one of those. And there are multiple others. So he took your changes, and he saw that some of those changes could actually be there in the Castellan library, so that we don't need to import some things directly from Barbican. Um, and I don't know if this was the same. Yeah, it's the same. Okay. And he left a to do in our code to fix that up. So yeah, I'm hoping this is, you know, trivial.
So with his changes, now we don't need to define the Barbican section
Yeah,
in our conf file.
not to define the Barbican section. I think just a sec. Let me see whether, yeah, I can get a link to this change here. This one. And he's left a note that says this likely breaks when Castellan fixes missing plugin options. Um, and so I think that the list options thing should only be helpful for the option generation, like the sample file generation. But it's worth checking about that. So basically, if we upgrade to a version of Castellan that includes those options, it might break because this is what Castellan's also doing. What we can do is we can grab Takashi and ask him if that change needs to be undone now, because we can we can rely on a newer version of Castellan.
Or probably, yes, we can ask him, and if he knows the fix, then we can pick his help as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what that meant. Sorry if I think I had added that at some point and forgotten the context of what that was.
Yep. Thanks. I think it's nice if we ask Takashi. Yes. So let's ping him, and I'll add this as an action item. So we can ping him and ask if we can remove that now that the new version of Castellan is available. Any other thoughts on this, on the Castellan changes?
No, let's move to the next.
Yep. So the next one is unmanaging encrypted shared servers. This, if I recall correctly, at the end of this, at the end of the day of we discussed this, and we realized that we should block this operation from happening, because it's if you unmanage and then it's something that's configured with a key, then it's when you manage it back, or if the shared server is going to be reused for some other reason, or if it's going to be picked up by being adopted by another service or something like that, or even Manila, it's we don't have a way for currently managing the key and ensuring that like the key is going to be correct, the user is going to be validated and all of that. So there are a couple of issues with unmanaging. So is there something that you guys thought about this situation, something that like you're thinking in terms of updates for the unmanaging? If we are able to add manage back, then it's something that we'll be able to unblock if that happens, but it requires also some work in possibly in the storage to ensure that we can like do some checkings with the keys and also modify if necessary.
I mean, we need to decide basically on what kind of things should be considered for manage and how manage operation with respect to encryption. For example, if you are trying to manage the share server which is having some encryption, it uh, Ideally, there should not be any issue with allowing it to manage. Uh, because I think by managing the share server, we make sure that there is no share on the share server. Or do we allow the shares with the share server with shares to manage?
Yes, we do. We allow the share servers with shares being managed. So none of the shares are known to the Manila at that point, right? So whenever you manage a share server, we expect also that the shares are going to be managed in Manila. So the procedure is actually going to be, like first managing the share server when you're in JSS true, and then managing the shares and snapshots for that share server. So that's
Yeah,
pretty much the workflow for that.
right. So we can have a share server which is encrypted, and we can have a share on that share server which are not encrypted. So for the time being, even if you assume that we are trying to manage a share server which is having encryption key associated with it and having couple of shares and snapshot, there should not be any restriction ideally with respect to manage operation. Uh, the key that is present there will only be considered in the next round when we try to create a share and try to find the compatible share server for that particular share.
So, what do we mean by encrypted share servers here? Is it the server itself has an encryption for all the volumes, or by default it has an encryption key that is enforced on volume shares that are created on that share server?
Yeah, so I
A
think,
share server,
sorry, please go ahead.
yeah, I think it's a share server which has encryption key enforced on it, and then the share can have a share server can have a shares which either can be encrypted or can be unencrypted. The way we support today, we are
Right.
talking here from the point of view of managing the share server which exists outside Manila, and we try to bring it into the Manila. So how do we manage if that share server has the encryption key enforced or associated with it? So from my point of view, there should not be any restriction, because even if a share server has encryption key, it can also have shares which are unencrypted.
So do we know what happens if we unmanage this kind of a share server which has encryption key configured, and there are shares that are encrypted? Is it going to Do we know the repercussions of that, Kiran? Or have we tried that out while implementing? Is that test case tried?
No, manage and manage is not supported. I mean, those operations are blocked today. Uh, in the existing
O-
implementation, we have blocked those because of time constraint.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah, so
This will be DHSS false, right?
No,
true.
no, DHS is
Oh,
true.
DHSS is true. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the concern. And then it was related to time, as Kinan mentioned.
So
So
we probably need some experiments from the NetApp where we have the encrypted share server and we try to manage that. The share server can have shares which are either encrypted or unencrypted, and we see if that operation goes through.
But is there a problem with blocking the manage unmanage for share servers which have encryption key configured? And what is that concern? Is there any customer who is looking for this kind of a management, or this is in general, we shouldn't block? Is that the guideline or guidance that we have right now?
So
I think Carlos, if you have.
managing and managing is an operation that should just like happen. Is like a day two operation. So let's say this is
Mhm.
useful for a couple of reasons. One of them being if you are migrating a cloud, or if you're coming from a cloud to another, or if you are doing some maintenance and then you start, like on managing um, somewhere, and then you manage somewhere else. So it's pretty much, like bringing something that's that exists in the NetApp storage, or in a storage under Manila management, so that Manila can manage the life cycle of that resource. That said, I think they are not being able to unmanage or not knowing how to deal with this situation. It blocks this day two operation that can be really important in the clouds. So that was pretty much the point of, like, oh, do do we need to plan, or what happens if you allow unmanaging and managing the share servers? And then we blocked this also because, if I recall correctly, in the implementation of share encryption, whenever we are creating a new share server that is encrypted, um, that the key is specified, and then the key is also checked. Like it checks, Manila checks if goes makes a request to Barbican, checks the key, and also the
Yeah.
user is involved in the context. If we are bringing a share server that already exists, like we already have a share server that existed, for example, and it is configured using a key that was provided by Barbican, and then at that point, we unmanage something that already has an encryption key. When we are managing it back,
Mm.
it could be a different user that does not have access to the key, or it could be a different user with something, and then we would be allowing to manage a share server or a vServer that has something already configured, or has an encryption key already configured, and we are not checking that. In the API, and we are not doing the same checks that we did when we were creating the shared server in the first place. So that's pretty much the concern behind that. I'm not sure I was able to capture everything, or if you guys would like to add something else.
Got it.
Yeah, but that was pretty much the
So,
reason behind also blocking the unmanaging of the shared servers.
okay, so do we think that the right way of doing this would be to first remove the share servers which are encrypted using the Barbican key, and then allow unmanaging? Basically, we just want a way to unmanage a share server where encrypted, uh, where encryption key is actually configured, right? So we need to think about a workflow on how this can be possible or made possible in case customer would want to do that. One is that, or because this is an encryption key that has encrypted the volume, so it may have repercussion if we just allow unmanaging and without checking whether there are encrypted shares or not.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think it. Yes, these are some investigation. It would be nice to have some thoughts on that, or how, if this unmanaged operation is gonna be, I don't know, something that is gonna live permanently there, or if we should actually go ahead and address this, because at some point, like this is. At the moment, it is sort of a gap that whenever something's
Yeah.
encrypted, we cannot unmanage it, and we cannot, I don't know, use this operation that is pretty useful when you're doing maintenance in clusters.
Hey,
Yep. Okay.
one aspect of this though is like our assumption at that point is an end user is giving you a secret, and we all we are doing in Manila is verifying that that secret exists and it's accessible by the end user. That means it belongs to them, and then also generating application credentials and passing it to the NetApp driver. Right, everything else is being handled out of band of Manila. Um, so if we're able to establish the same workflow with manage, that's all we care about in order to do the manage and unmanage both in order to unblock those. So that's kind of the ask over here. So in case, um, let's say with manage, we had the same workflow, except that with manage the administrators who's proxying the request on behalf of an end user. So they're bringing in resources that were probably previously there in Manila or not there in Manila ever, and they're telling us they would like to have this encrypted with the with this key, and that key already exists on Barbican. It belongs to some user, right? And we're able to accept that with the manage API, validate that key exists with the admin's context, and pass it back to down to the driver, and the driver should probably tell us if that key is the one that's already configured on that share server. If it's not, reject it. But if it is, then just make sure that the same thing that happens with create share happens with manage as well. That should probably be sufficient to fix this up, in my view. Am I seeing am I not seeing some issue with issues that could possibly be there?
I have more concerns about unmanaging. So, for instance, uh, without having basically unmanaging means removing the SVM from the management plane of Manila. In that case, what happens to the shares which are actually encrypted and via the same key that is configured?
Yeah.
I don't think we have a rekey as well that is implemented on
Yeah,
this
yeah. So
side.
I don't so when we are doing an unmanaged or a manage, we shouldn't be expecting to re-encrypt anything. Um, So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was going with saying that if somebody is trying to give you a key that's not what the share server has, reject the management itself. So with unmanaged, we don't touch anything. You just say, okay, we're just forgetting this resource from Manila, and so everything can be removed from the Manila database. But with manage, we'll need to make sure that when we're adding things back into the database, it is what exists on the back end, and not we're not trying to provide any new information.
Okay. So this might require for us to do some POCs to see how this will work for unmanage and manage again. So maybe we should do those POCs, come back with more data, and then have a little bit more discussion on how this can be implemented.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
do you have any point, Sai, to make here, or Girish, apart from what I just said?
So that was the only concern why we had blocked in the last release. We didn't have a user exact user check, and we didn't want to go it like that, right, and Gautam Carlos. That was the reason we had to block that, and we thought we will look into it. But I understand the concern from Anup as well. So whatever Gautam told, I kind of agree. I mean, that's there. But whatever Anup told is also makes sense. But we'll come back with that. That was the only reason we had to block. Gautam, we will come back on this definitely.
Yeah, let's
So,
do some
so,
POCs, back with more
so
data on.
this change is required from the driver side, or we need to make some code changes from the code side, like user validation and those things in case of managing that share. Like,
Yeah, it would be core and driver because the core will also need to do the same workflow of asking Barbican if the key exists and if the user can access the
mhm.
key, and then it will be
Okay.
if okay, it will be forwarded to the driver, and then the driver will need to do the checking like, oh, is this the key that is configured on this share
Okay.
server? If it is, then it allows the operation. If not, then it should block the operation.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Carlos.
No problem. Any other thoughts on manage for encrypted share servers? And yeah, thanks for looking into this.
Nope. I think once we have some data points, we can have more discussions on this, I guess.
Awesome, thank you. We have a couple of other topics, even though we have some, and like we are running late on the schedule. So we also have the same thing for migrating encrypted share servers and the encryption with share applications, as well as the rotation of application credentials. So if I recall correctly, we also blocked these operations like migrating the encrypted share servers because some work needs to be done on that as well.
Right, right. I think we blocked for replication and unmanaged. I'm not sure if we have blocked it for migration also. The bug says it only for two, right? If but these three needs to be taken a look. Okay, that's for sure.
So that does migration work? First of all, on the on-tap side, we will have to, if there is a dependency on on-tap, we will have to call
Right,
that out
right,
side.
right. We
So
will.
what we should do is we should check if we have any prioritization on on-tap side for these use
Hmm.
cases, the other two use cases.
Right,
Based on that, we can come back with that data. If we need on-tap support, then we need to kind of prioritize that on on-tap side before we go ahead and implement that on the Manila plane or driver
get it
side.
right. Right on.
Yeah.
So share migration also we need to add here, right? Share migration means within the same vServer or across the vServer also. So
Yes.
across the vServer might be impact because rekey should happen there also.
Exactly.
Across
Because
these servers, it might be required.
yeah.
So I think this we need to add here. We have added the share
So there are
server.
two ways to see the V server across V server, right? Or as across share server. Either you and it either you create or you configure the same Barbican key on the other V server where it is to be migrated, or you do that during migration. And the problem with that is if the other V server is already configured with the key, then that might not be allowed. So we will have to block that, and there are some corner cases there as well.
Right.
So we will need to again, that is a good point, Girish. We should evaluate what we can achieve with all these use cases and see come up with that information.
Oh,
But
sure.
from the priority point of view, what should be the highest priority in these? If we have to say start looking into these, any idea of prioritization, Carlos, or any hint on the prioritization that we may have? Because we are already committed to some of these tasks that we have for Manila. We may need to see or find time for prioritizing the rest of the additional items that we would want to take.
Yeah. So this like a tough question. Sorry, Gautam would like to say something.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah,
we can
no, I
take
was
this
gonna
up.
say, this is a sort of tech debt at this point, right?
Yes.
Because we kind of wanted to get the feature in, and we had all of these as a MVP stuff. So in case we don't have the pulse on this, we might just let it go. But it's not a bad thing. It's just that it might confuse somebody in the future. So let's say it doesn't happen in the Gazpacho release, it probably gets scheduled for later. It's something
So
that
I
we got
think
to
what we should
evaluate.
aim to. Okay, sure. Sorry. So what we should aim to is at least have the data points on these use cases. Maybe get it prioritized on the storage side if it is not already, and then come back and prioritize it whenever we can possibly do it with data point that we may have, and we
Yeah,
can.
I agree. I think just making sure that we know why we are doing something, at least writing it down somewhere.
Yeah.
Perhaps even
Okay.
in that bug report, exactly pointing out the technical challenges. That'd be good.
Sure. Okay. What we will do also is from our side, we will keep them tracked from our internal uh, uh, backlog point of view, and we will
Perfect.
come back with the design and the pointers that we can. When in one of those Manila meetings, we will discuss the next steps on this. We'll keep them in track.
Perfect. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so I think all of the like the checking on all of these features, it also encompasses like the migrating and the replicas. There is also something like that the replication of share servers is also something that might be interesting to take a look at. But yeah, that's yeah, I think that wraps up. Maybe we can follow up, but as I said, in the interest of time, we need to take a look at other topics as well. And my apologies for like not having more time to talk through this. We can bring this up in an upstream meeting and continue the discussion there if that's okay with everyone. And to the NetApp team, thanks for looking into this. It's really nice. Yeah, these are known issues and tech debt at this point. So thanks for taking a look at this and helping us figure out what are the next steps for it. Yeah. So, any other thoughts on this topic?
Yeah. So, so should I start on this or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start on the next topic. I will split the recording so that yeah, I don't run into the issue of it getting too large.